Video game movies, the classic example of how not to adapt something to the screen. As an industry, we've been making fun of awful video game movies and shows for decades. That's not what this is about. This is about looking forward. With a ton of new video game movies slated for release this year and a ton more being announced almost every other week at this point, is it possible that video game movies and TV shows will finally start getting good? You know, like consistently. So in the last couple years, properties like Detective Pikachu and the Sonic movie broke the trend a little by being fairly well received and making a decent amount of cash at the box office. But let's be honest, two movies is nowhere near enough to wash away the legacy of bad video game movies that's come before. In addition to a number of video game movies that never made it through the pre-production limbo, like the long-rumored Halo and BioShock films, there's a reason so many of us roll our eyes and recede into a mental fortress of solitude at even the slightest mention of a video game title being adapted for film or television. Even if a renowned game franchise in the past like Resident Evil or Assassin's Creed made it to the big screen, the Hollywoodification of the source material was almost always guaranteed to make it awful somehow. Now, in a time where the Marvel Cinematic Universe has reigned for over a decade, it feels like filmmakers and TV showrunners are eager to prove that if comic books can be minced for source material and make them tons of money, then so too can video games. Damn it. And that's a good thing. We're in an era of good comic book movies and shows, which definitely wasn't always the case. And admittedly, the onslaught of video game movie and TV adaptation announcements are getting hard to ignore. I mean, some of them are just completely wild. Recently, there have been formidable updates on the new Uncharted movie slated for 2022, the Mortal Kombat reboot film, which just dropped a new trailer, and the Borderlands movie, which has a ridiculously high-profile cast for a video game movie that's largely themed around blowing up space rednecks. Earlier this month, Jack Black was announced to play the role of Claptrap, and he'll be joining Cate Blanchett as Lilith, Kevin Hart as Roland, and Jamie Lee Curtis as Dr. Tannis. On one hand, it feels like there is no way a Borderlands movie could be good simply because, you know, staying up with your friends till 4 a.m. trying to beat Cromarax even though you're severely underleveled just to me doesn't seem like it would translate into a movie well. On the other hand, the liberties that screenwriters and directors usually take with characters that you've spent hundreds of hours with often just feels a little icky. These two factors alone are what stack the odds against every video game movie from the beginning. In truth, Jack Black will probably make a pretty good Claptrap, but it's hard to turn off that part of your brain that's already heard the very distinctive Claptrap voice for hundreds of hours across multiple games. Well, maybe except for Borderlands 3, after Randy Pitchford fired the original VO guy and they didn't pay him, but that's a different story. Anyways, if the Borderlands casting wasn't enough to make you turn your head, Sony Pictures Television just confirmed that they are producing a live-action series based on Twisted Metal, of all things. Yes, Twisted Metal, the vehicle combat arena game that has an ice cream truck that can shoot missiles driven by a murderous clown who has fire for hair. But hey, I mean, those games were fun, and a lot of people have a sweet spot for Sweet Tooth. However, it kind of seems a little out of touch. The last Twisted Metal game came out nearly 10 years ago in 2012, and even though it didn't completely bomb, it also didn't do well enough for Sony to significantly invest in more Twisted Metal games over the past decade. However, according to Variety, the Twisted Metal show is being adapted by the writers behind Deadpool and Zombieland, and I mean, that seems like as good a fit as any. There's plenty more hope on the horizon as far as future video game adaptations go too. That new Mortal Kombat movie trailer that just dropped, for example, you know, the one featuring Kano holding a beating heart, it really seemed to have a good handle on what fans want out of a cinematic reboot for the franchise. Largely in the past, it felt like the source material for video games wasn't really taken seriously by Hollywood executives or screenwriters or directors or anyone really. And I guess that's understandable, but part of the large success of all of the comic book based shows and movies we have now was showing a reverence for those original characters and their stories. Now it seems like that actually could start happening with video games. The upcoming Last of Us series being developed by HBO is going to tackle the setting and plot of the first game while presumably adding in some stuff that didn't make it in originally. That seems kind of cool, and better still, Neil Druckmann, the creative director at Naughty Dog, and Evan Wells, the CEO of Naughty Dog, seem like they will be heavily involved with the production of the show. Furthermore, the TV adaptation cast Bella Ramsey as Ellie, known for her role as Lyanna Mormont in Game of Thrones, and Pedro Pascal as Joel, who starred in Narcos, Game of Thrones, and is more recently known for his role in The Mandalorian. I mean, Joel is the Mandalorian is Joel, in a very few words. works perfectly. So from the outside looking in, it certainly feels like there's a lot more star power, effort, and money going into these newer video game, movie, and TV adaptations. You know, the first season of Netflix's Witcher show was fun, and at the very least, we know a second is on the way. Sequels for the Sonic movie and Detective Pikachu are also confirmed, and Nintendo even teamed up with Illumination to make a new animated Super Mario movie set to release in 2022. In addition, there are a ton more video game related projects in the works, like a cinematic reboot for Resident Evil, a film adaptation of The Division, a Cyberpunk 2077 anime, a Fallout series coming to Amazon, and an Assassin's Creed series on Netflix. So maybe things are looking up, and we're about to hit a new era of video game adaptations that we always wished we could have had growing up. And if not, at least we'll have plenty more fodder for cringe-inducing watch parties with friends. Is there a video game movie or a TV show that you're looking forward to that we didn't mention? Do you have a favorite video game movie that already exists and you feel is underrated maybe? Let us know in the comments, and hey, if you like this and you're looking for more, feel free to like and maybe even subscribe. Have a good one.